Hey, this is Peter. This is Johnny. No, I'm just kidding. This is Fred. How you doing? I haven't done a review in a few days, and so I thought today was the day, and I'm like, man, I really wish there was something I could do to honor the 10-year anniversary of the death of one of my favorite metal musicians of all time, Peter Steele, legendary frontman of typeonegative, just a beast of a songwriter, a beast of a man, and he died 10 years ago today, suddenly, and the world was just without him. And so I was like, man, I wish there was something I could do. I should review an album, but which one should I review? I mean, I listened to them all so many times, one of my favorite bands ever, and then look what came in the mail. World Coming Down, the first ever single, according to the sticker, the first ever single legitimate release on vinyl. They've released this album multiple times in box set form and things like that. I'm lucky enough to have the original box set from Record Store Day way back in 2013, 2012. It's been a while. And then the most recent box set, which came from Run Out Groove. And so does this particular packaging, Run Out Groove. You know, and part of me is like, man, they just keep releasing more stuff. It's going to kind of lessen the worth of having it and things like that. But I don't care. I want as many people to hear this band as possible because I think this is a sadly overlooked metal band by a lot of younger listeners who maybe don't know how great this band is. So we're going to listen to World Coming Down here just in a minute. So I'm pretty excited about it. You know, sometimes they don't always hit deadlines that they set and things like that for their pre-orders. But man, this vinyl looks great, feels nice and heavy. The packaging is solid, very clean. It does look very much like the pressing that's in the box set that they released recently with all the albums. But I'm excited to review World Coming Down for a few different reasons. The main one being that I think it's probably one of their more divisive albums. I think that the fans of Typo, October Rust was obviously loved by just so many music listeners. It's one of my top 5 albums of all time. And I think that Bloody Kisses was loved. I feel like this one's kind of divides some people because I think it was different for them. It was unexpected. It had a lot of these cool, longer, like, outros that felt almost like new songs at times at the end of some of these tunes. But I also feel like this is the album where they dealing with their darkest lyrical material. They also were, I think, influenced by a band, the Beatles, more than ever before. I feel like Peter was really exploring his more beautiful melodic ideas as well. So there's an abrasiveness to this album, and there's a beauty to it. So I'm excited to listen to it track by track and kind of go through about what I love. And there are some things that I may not love about this album, but I'm excited to talk about it. So let's start and dig into typeonegative's World Coming Down. Great update to the vinyl version of this, by the way. There's an album track called Skip It that starts this album where it's like there's a skipping noise and then Kenny yells, "Sucker!" in the background. It's kind of a nice joke the band played. Well, this album has Skip It, but it sounds like the first track, White Slavery, is skipping. Makes you think that your record is jacked up. It's really not. Hopefully people aren't returning these because of that first 11 seconds, but it's a nice joke by the band. And then it cuts right to White Slavery. This song is 8 minutes long. It's prodding, it's slow, but I think it's a great way to start the album. I think it seems to deal heavily with Peter's battles with cocaine, from what I can tell. Maybe one of the things that, may have led to some of his health problems as he moved on into age. But I think this song is really good. It shows you right away that this is a departure from October Rust. It's still very heavy, though, and still beautiful. And catchy. So I think that this track is very strong. White Slavery is a great way to start this album in particular. I feel like if this had started October Rust, it wouldn't have set the tone like Love You to Death did. But this does set the tone for what this album is, which is it's beautiful, but it's darker, I think, and it sounds a little more cold and distant than October Rust did for sure. But still a great track. Going full flamingo back there. Let me say, if you haven't heard a lot of typeonegative stuff, I don't think World Coming Down is the album to start with. I know we're just in the first track here, but I have to say that I think that you should start with Bloody Kisses or October Rust. But this still is a really cool album. But if you haven't heard typeonegative, just turn me off and go listen to all their stuff. They're such an important band in metal, and I think that they have a sound that no one else really has been able to come near as far as like trying to replicate what they were doing. So such a great sound and such a great band too. Sinus is one of the first kind of like interlude tracks. This album kind of has these, I guess you'd say, interludes where you have this break where deep breathing, heavy, sounds like someone's going through some kind of relapse or drug situation here. It kind of reminds me of Life of Agony's River Runs Red, which is also one of my favorite albums of all time and also from a New York band. But I don't love the interludes. I feel like I know what they're going for here. They're trying to give the album this theme, this connecting theme. But I don't love these little breaks. It's one of my least favorite things about the album. There's not much on this album I could pick on, but that's one of the things is that I don't think that the breaks are wonderful. I much prefer the music. That's what Typo is all about for me. The next song, Seems 3 years or maybe 4, Someone Drops Dead, Whom I Adore. Everyone I Love Is Dead is this song. It's Peter's kind of tongue-in-cheek take on death and the loss of family members, which he'd been experiencing around this time of this album. It's just got that typo-negative kind of humor, dark humor, dark like lyrics that are... I think it was actually him dealing with something that scared him a little bit, and that's losing people that he loved. It's a great song. Everyone I Love Is Dead is another wonderful track. Beautiful, heavy, driving. It's excellent. As I'm listening to this, it also reminds me that the band used to always do these like kind of cuts where they would edit things down for radio. They'd cut out parts of interludes. And man, I hated when they had to do that, because I feel like those interludes where there's these breaks between Peter's vocal delivery was so important to the effectiveness of the song. So I like these in their fully expanded, fully realized original forms without any radio edits. I strongly recommend not getting like one of those radio edited like best of compilations they made for Typo. Go for the original albums, because this song I think lost a lot in translation when they cut certain parts of it for radio edits. The album just has such a wonderful ambiance. There's like noises and backmasking going on throughout this album that are just really cool and dark. Who Will Save the Sane is this next track, and it's the last track on this side of this pressing. It's the perfect melding of two of his huge influences. It's like Black Sabbath meets the Beatles, and that's what I think they did so well on this album. Wonderful track, great musicality here, very singable, almost poppy, but still has a little bit of that gritty edge that most of this album has. But man, another great tune. It is a very strong start to the album. These first few songs, even that interlude, which is kind of creepy, it does set the tone, I suppose. Note also Josh Silver, who was the keyboard player and helped to write a few of these songs and produce them. As soon as Typo was done because of Peter's death, he went on to pursue being an EMT still. So he's an EMT in New York. So thoughts with him right now because of what's going on with COVID and COVID-19 and everything. He's one of the people on the front lines there. But man, it's amazing to think that someone who played keyboards for Typo is now saving lives in New York City. So that's wonderful. The end of Who Will Save the Sane is not in a hurry to end. But man, that's why I love this album. Just these cool, ambient, kind of droney pieces at the end of all these songs that really, I think, is like a brand new addition to the song that just feels almost necessary, which is cool because I don't think it ever felt tacked on. It's like it's part of that song structure, and that's why I think they're so good. Next song is Liver, another interlude, dealing with abuse, very, very brief. One cool thing about vinyl is that I don't feel like getting up to skip past this, so I'm listening to it. But on CD and on streaming, I'd probably skip these like I do with Life of Agony's River Runs Red. I skip the Monday, Thursday, Friday thing that's on there. I also skip these, but I think I know what Peter was going for, but I think it also made the album very difficult for him to listen to after he produced it, because I think it hit really close to home for him. So I don't love these tracks, and I kind of wish they weren't there, but meh. The World Coming Down is such a great song, but there's this part in the middle that's real quiet, real laid back, just Peter and some gentle synth sounds, some very gentle guitar sounds in the background. Man, this song was the one they kept playing live, afterwards, after the album had been out for a while. On that tour, I was lucky enough to see them, my wife and I were, and they played a few songs of this album, but World Coming Down was one they kind of went back to in the last couple cycles that they got to do as a band. But man, this is a great song. World Coming Down is... I think it represents everything this album is. It's dynamic and it's powerful. The lyrics are very depressing and thought-provoking. And man, World Coming Down is just a stellar track. It's also 11 minutes long. And isn't that too long of a song? No, it's not long enough. This song is awesome. 11 minutes is perfect. I wouldn't mind it going 13, to be truthful with you. Side note, though. Kenny, where you get this jacket, man? I want this. I want that jacket. Lyrically, Creepy Green Light could fit on Bloody Kisses or something. One of his favorite things to sing about was Halloween and Hallows Eve. He loved that. But only lyrically, musically, this song fits right in with this era of the band. Driving, melodic, still heavy. And I think that this is another song that is maybe undersold as far as its importance in the album. I think it's very balanced right here in the middle of the record. I think it was a great choice for placement. And Creepy Green Light is another banger. It's just a great typo song in the middle of what I think is one of their best albums. Of the morose and the macabre from Mr. Steele here. Everything Dies. Another song that's over 7 minutes long. Every song from here on out is over 7 minutes. In fact, the shortest song in this whole album is Everyone I Love Is Dead, which is 6 minutes and 11 seconds long. But Everything Dies is multi-layered, multifaceted, several different parts, all assembled beautifully. The topic is depressing, yet he kind of deals with it tongue-in-cheek again. And man, this album is really, really solid, and I never get bored of the songs. I never want them to be over. I think that they're just so well put together and so well produced that it's just another piece in this masterful puzzle that typeonegative put together here in 1999. Another interlude. Lung, still don't love it. There's a woman mourning and crying. It's sad, I guess, but I don't. I feel like that it's a trick that's unnecessary in the album because the songs are just so masterfully put together that it's almost like an unwanted break. The next track is Pyretta Blaze. This is my wife's probably her favorite typo song. It's definitely in my top 5. If I had to play one track off of this album for someone who was like an outside kind of metal fan that wanted to hear what typo could do, I think I'd pick Pyretta Blaze. I think that it's kind of an accessible song, and I think the mix is perfect on it. The kind of organ, piano, keyboard, organ thing in the background there is really awesome. Vocal lines are great. Peter's vocal performance is wonderful. The Pyretta Blaze, that whole vocal harmony thing is so cool. Boy, what a great song here again. I just can't get enough of the songs on this particular part of the album. Hallows Eve is pretty good. I don't think it's as strong as Pyretta Blaze or Creepy Green Light or Everything Dies. The last few songs were so strong that I think this one's a little less impactful for me as a typo fan. It's still a good track, though. Don't get me wrong. It's by no means one that I would turn off. I think that it's going back to his same dark roots. Hallows Eve, Halloween, he loves singing about those kinds of things. He is the Green Man after all, but I just feel as though that this song is not as strong as the 4 before it. Still a really good track, though. Don't turn it off by any means. The last track on the album is it's a Beatles medley. I mean, you might as well do a Beatles medley. The whole album is kind of a Beatles-esque feel, but like the metal Beatles. This is it's called Day Tripper. It's got Day Tripper, If I Needed Someone, and I Want You, She's So Heavy. If I Needed Someone is a Harrison track, and it's one of my favorite Beatles songs. So I do enjoy listening to Typo's take on that. But I don't feel as though that this was really necessary for the album. It's not bad. It doesn't ruin anything. I think Peter wanted to do this because he's always wanted to do like a recorded Beatles track, so they did a medley. But I think that the album itself isn't weakened or strengthened by this album. This song's just kind of there for me. It's a cool medley, but I don't always need to revel in it like I do some of the other tracks that Typo wrote on this album. So there you have it. Pink Flamingo and all. Typonegative's World Coming Down. This pressing by Run Out Groove is very solid. Sounds great, looks great. Pays tribute to the band, has a nice some liner notes in here about the album and its impact. Do I think this album is better than October Rust? No. Do I think that it has iconic songs on it like Christian Woman and Black Number 1 from Bloody Kisses? No. But do I think that it's more cohesive than Bloody Kisses was? I do. This album is really just solid, great songwriting. Kind of like, the Machine Head's The Blackening, which I mentioned a few videos ago. These songs are all long, but I don't feel like they're ever boring or over, drawn out. I think that this is exactly what Peter Steele needed to do at this point in his life and his career, and I think he was addressing some very serious issues. But he produced something that's beautiful and kind of chaotic. As far as a grade on this album, this pressing's wonderful. I would give this album a 95 out of 100. I really think that it's probably Typo's second most cohesive record, and maybe my second favorite. I always, this one of Bloody Kisses kind of always goes back and forth with me, but I really think World Coming Down is the band firing on all cylinders and maybe at his most masterful as far as constructing songs and making them all fit together, even though the parts feel like they could be disjointed. They never are. So check out Typonegative's World Coming Down. Do you think it's better than Bloody Kisses? Do you think it's better than October Rust? Do you even like it at all? I love it, but, you know, that's just like my opinion, man. Type O negative.